It is party time, Mom. Welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. We are in the Mothership Studio 22, and it is San Jacinto Day in Texas. For those of you who don't know, 185 years ago, Sam Houston, 18 minutes that changed the course of Texas destiny forever, defeated Santa Ana. 18 minutes. And you know why? You know why they beat them in 18 minutes? They were having a siesta.
That or they
caught
were
them off guard.
too tired after defeating the Alamo.
They were.
That followed. It followed
they
the Alamo.
had walked a long way.
They
had
did.
done that.
Yeah.
And Santa Ana was in his tent. Rumor has it, based on a story that was told to Sam Houston while they were on a steamer, is that one Emily Morgan was in the tent with him. Now, Emily Morgan had worked as an indentured servant. She was kidnapped by the Mexican cavalry and forced to travel with Santa Ana and his troops. And they were doing the hibbity-dibbity. That's who they named the Yellow Rose of Texas. Did you know this?
I really did not catch that part of the history in my class, but that is very interesting.
It's written in a journal that he was doing the hibbity-dibbity
with Emily.
And she is the Yellow Rose of Texas. So that's one of the reasons we have our Yellow Rose.
Okay.
I identify as Texan shirts.
Sounds like maybe she was forced.
Well, she was captured indentured servant.
Yeah.
So it could have been.
Yeah.
I bet Emily was a smoke show.
She was.
Yeah.
Or she was a coward since she was yellow.
Yeah.
You know.
But people accused her. They thought that maybe she was a spy. No evidence that she was actually a spy for the Texas Army. But,
that would be a time to catch somebody off guard when they're like, give me that.
Give me some of that. Let me take off this peg leg.
It's hard to move around when your
Give you some of this peg leg
ankles.
I got.
And he's coming off a high, a recent high. He's like, I got this.
And
then, boom.
Yeah. I don't know if he still had both legs at that point in time. I think maybe. I don't know.
I just want to know how you say hibbity-dibbity in Spanish.
Yeah, I think it's still hibbiday-dibbiday. Yeah, put a little A on the end of it. Little accent mark over the. Yeah. But today is San Jacinto Day, April 21st, 185 years. So we celebrate that 18 minutes. Texas also has its scars and its history. You know that one of the primary things, the reasons that Texas fought for its independence from Mexico is Mexico was a free nation. They didn't have slaves. And Texas wanted to maintain slavery. And it was one of the things that motivated that. So even with our great history, we have a scarred history, right? And but that's the reality of things that are there. But God bless Texas. Mm-hmm. God bless you, Hot News Natalie.
Thank you. We've grown from it.
We have.
You have to grow from your history. You don't make it. You don't erase it.
We have. But even today, we're still seeing the scars of race issues, and of course the Derek Chauvin case. The verdict came down yesterday. We'll talk about that later in the episode. A lot of backlash, a lot of responses, a lot of interesting things happening. It could be that justice in our country is dead. We are headed towards mob rule. We'll get into all those things. Our good friend Jack Carr. Look at this handsome man right here. It's a good looking. That's a wowzer. We're going to have Jack Carr on the show later on talking about his new book, the fourth installment of his James Reese series, The Devil's Hand. If you're not reading these books, you need to start. Get the terminal list and begin right there. And a fantastic book.
That's thick.
It's a thick book.
That's
you know what I'm
thick.
talking about? That's what Emily said, too, when she went in that tent.
That's thick.
Oh, that's thick.
Santa.
I doubt that.
Party Foul Steve gave everybody the finger last night on the show right there from the pub. He did. He launched it out there.
I couldn't help it.
It was pretty funny how you slung it up there, too.
Several people tried to freeze frame it and send.
It was pretty quick.
It was quick.
It was pretty
successful?
quick. Yeah.
Just say it was not bad.
Yeah. Everybody knows Allison joining us at the pub. And, of course, Jennings. We're going to get into it today. Who knows? Who knows what's going on?
Allison is beautiful. I just want to say that.
Average News Allison right here.
I guess we're chopped liver, Steve.
The thing you are compared
Well,
to
next
Allison.
to her.
The thing about Allison is she's the most awesome human being on the planet. And nothing against present company, of course. But she is the most, to me, she's the best human on the planet. She takes care of everything. She thinks of things that I don't don't even cross my mind.
One step ahead of you.
So good.
That's important.
So good. She's just an incredible human being, and I'm so thankful for
well, as a
all
good leader,
that she does
you
for me.
need to surround yourself with people who are one step ahead of you. That pushes you to be a better leader.
That's what I try to do, because I'm a visionary. She's my chief strategist. Her job is not to tell me I can't do it. It's just to figure out how to pay for it and get it done.
Okay.
That's
or come up with a new idea so he forgets about the last one.
That's true.
That's the woman in you.
That's in my ADD. She knows how to manipulate me. Of course, we got the puppet master, Mark. We got Kayla Swift over there, and Candice, Queen of the Ethiopians. So it's a full house, folks. You ever go out to a barbecue joint, the next day you're still digesting all of that meat? You know that feeling? Well, here's a tip for you. You got to drink some red wine with it. Not only does it taste great, but red wine actually makes you digest meat more effectively. In fact, according to some studies, it even makes red meat healthier. But not all red wines are equal. We know this. You don't want some mass-marketed red wine full of chemicals and pesticides. Instead, you need to check out Extreme Altitude Malbec from Argentina. Extreme altitude means grapes grown at around 9,000 feet. They're feed off of pure snowfall. No excess chemicals, with notes of blackberry, leather, smoke, and dark cherry. There you go. Love drinking this wine. The owners over at cowboywines.com are telling me they just got another special shipment of these wines in. Third highest vineyard in the world. It makes for a pretty strong grape right there. Hot news. I don't know if you realize this or not. Yeah. Hey, my audience, that's you guys, can get 50% off if you go there today. Visit cowboywines.com. That's cowboywines.com. And we'll be right back with Jack Carr. The Devil's Hand. That's the fourth installment of the James Reese saga. You guys are well aware of this series of books. You need to get this one. It just released. Our good buddy, former Navy SEAL, New York Times bestselling author Jack Carr is joining us. Jack, you are a busy, busy man, but that's a good thing, isn't it?
It's a good thing. Good problem to have. That's for sure. That's what you want. But I want to write more than one of these a year, because it seems like I can only talk to you once a year when these things come out. So I'm going to start doing 2 just so we can link up and talk, especially in person. We're doing this obviously remote right now, but I miss hanging out, man.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. My guilty pleasure is these books right here, the James Reese stories, starting all the way back with Terminal List. I kind of found Terminal List sort of by accident. Read it, fell in love with it, and was hoping for sequels. And man, you're pumping them out, and I'm glad that you're doing it. This thing, I was talking with our friend Brad Thor recently about his Scott Harvath novels, and I think he's written like 21 or 22 of those things. What do you think? You going to top him on this?
I don't know. I'm going to go as long as people want to keep reading them. So that's it's really up to the readers. But right now, people are already telling me they want book 5, which I'm writing at this. As soon as I'm off this interview, bam, it's right back into book 5. So it's go, and about one a year that's about right.
Yeah.
And that first one, I'm very fortunate in that you're not the only one that the Terminal List resonated with. It also resonated with Chris Pratt. So they're filming that thing right now in LA, 350 people on set. It's like a military operation out there, and just got back about a week ago and had a great time out there. It's just an incredible group of people, and they're crushing it, man. And people that have seen Chris in like Jurassic World and in Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers and that sort of thing, they're going to be surprised. He is dark, gritty, primal, violent, visceral, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I've heard or I've read rather Chris Pratt talking about that character and what it means to play that character, and pretty strong stuff. I think he's going to represent it well. Do you feel a little funny when you're watching your book get turned into television or movie or just being made for screen? Do you feel like it's changing, or are they giving you the creative license to step in and say, nope, that's not along the lines of the story, or how does that work?
Well, when you have no book out yet, which is what happened when they optioned it, and you're not coming from sports or politics, have zero social media presence, and no one knows who you are not negotiating from a position of strength. So you turn over all creative control to the people that are going to make it. And really, for me, growing up, I always wanted to be an author. So I was reading all these books in the 80s and 90s, and I'd watched the film adaptations or the television adaptations. So I knew that when you tell a story visually there will be changes. So it wasn't a shock that there was going to be changes, but I got to advise on all the scripts. And for Chris and Antoine Fuqua, who is directing the first episode and who is an executive producer on this as well, what they wanted was really to keep that authenticity, that realism, that gritty primal nature, but then tell the story through a visual medium. So it's an 8-part series for Amazon that should be coming out sometime in 2022. But when you turn over your narrative to somebody to adapt to film, there's a lot of trust there. So trusting Chris and Antoine to do this, that couldn't be in better hands.
Well, in your books, the impressive thing to me is when I'm reading them, you've taken this character, James Reese, all over the world. I mean, this guy has really been a wanderer. And it's just kind of a wandering warrior, if you will, just on a mission all over the world. And when you describe those places, I can literally picture them in my mind. It's so descriptive. I think back through every single book, I can still envision the locations. How were you able to do that? You've gone to a lot of these places, haven't you?
That's right. So for the first one, I was still in the military when I started writing it. So I'd been to Iraq, I'd been to Afghanistan, I'd been to most all of the places that I describe in the novel. For that second one, I'd already been to Morocco, already been to the Ukraine. I hadn't been to Mozambique. So I went to Mozambique, put boots on the ground there, and got to weave that local flavor into that storyline because it was such an important part of that second novel, True Believer. Same thing with part of that second, and then the third, Savage Son. I went down to South Africa, helped train up an anti-poaching unit down there because I needed to learn about man tracking and the people down there. The people in these anti-poaching units that are protecting some of the last rhino on Earth are some of the best man trackers on the planet. So spent some time with them down there and got to weave that into both the second and the third novels. And then for that third one, I put boots on the ground in Russia, in Kamchatka Peninsula, which is just south of Siberia. So put boots on the ground over there and wanted to weave some of that local flavor in as well, some of the things you can only get by going to these places. And then for this fourth one, I was very fortunate in that most of the research for this one was academic, and I had to learn about infectious diseases, the weaponization of infectious diseases, that sort of thing. And I didn't really need to travel anywhere because it's mostly continental United States based. And I was fortunate because everything shut down as I started writing this thing for COVID. So I didn't have to fly, didn't have to do that research, but I had to do a lot of academic research. And I outlined it in August of 2019, well before 2020, well before COVID hit. And it became a much more timely novel than I anticipated back in August of 2019 when I outlined it.
So I think I've told you this before, that usually when I read your books, I don't do the page turning. I usually read it in a digital format. And the reason I like to do that is because you have so much gear and so much the weaponry and so many descriptive things that I have to highlight it and then look it up because I want to see it. So reading your books actually turns into a very expensive venture for me because I get your gear list, which I think you just released a new one, didn't you? And I go shopping, man.
You know, I hear that a lot from people, especially from a lot of the guys whose wives aren't very happy with me because of the credit card charges that come from their purchases. But yeah, I typically like to describe, because I've been a gear guy my whole life, before the military, during the military, after, and what I see somebody carrying, how they carry it, tells me a story about them. So I use this gear as a character development tool. Like if I see somebody carrying a Cockton Lock 1911 in a leather holster on a leather belt, stepping out of an old 1975 Ford pickup truck, that tells me something about them. Or if I see somebody that is carrying a striker fire pistol in a Kydex holster with a nylon belt, stepping out of a brand new Ford Raptor, that tells me something else about them. So I use these things to develop the characters, and for me, that tells a story.
Yeah, and I always, I've always looked at reading your books. I've told Brad Thor, I said a lot of times when I'm reading his books, it's not fiction, it's faction, right? You learn a lot from the books. The same with this series of books, and Devil's Hand, no different. And I appreciate that about. And I've told you this off air. You've got I love your Instagram, right? Jack Carr USA at Jack Carr USA, probably my favorite. I told you if I could get you in a bikini and turn you into an Instagram model, it would be better. But it's great because you've got this day in history. You talk about gear. You talk about all kind of things that are on there that are just real informative. And it's not just a quick little easy post. I mean, you're doing all of those yourself, aren't you?
I am. I put a lot of thought into those because people are trusting me with their time.
Yeah.
And if someone's trusting me with their time, whether it's in the pages of the novel, whether they're listening to it for over 10 hours with Ray Porter reading the audiobook, or if they're just scrolling through Instagram and they've trusted me with that, because we don't know how much time we have on this planet. You don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. You don't know if you have a year. You don't know if you have 5 years. You just don't know. So trusting me with that time is something I take very seriously. So I try to be as thoughtful as I possibly can in my posts, just like I would be with a paragraph in the novel. I put just as much thought into both of those things as a thank you to the reader, because that's what I owe them in return for that investment of time.
I mean, this is a process. Obviously, it's a labor of love. It's more than just a job. You've told us before that you've had a passion to be an author your entire life, and the descriptive way that you tell a story is very impressive. Every now and then I'll sit down. I've got a book coming out in August, and it's it's a daunting task to go through the writing process, through the publishing process, everything. I go through with the editors, in this process now, and it's like you're handing your baby off to them, and they want to make the changes, and they want to fix things, and many things need to be fixed. How tedious is this process for you? Not only just the writing, but just the business side of this.
Well, the business side was what was a surprise, because I thought at the outset that you could go up to the mountains, live in a cabin, write a book, send it to New York, and then start your next one.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had to do all the things you would have to do if you were starting any business, starting a coffee shop, whatever it might be. You have to do the budget, the advertising, the marketing, the social media, the engagement. You have to build that readership. You have to build that client base, essentially. And so I didn't realize that at the outset, but as I crept closer to the publication of my first novel in 2018, it became very apparent that you had to take ownership of the business side in order to engage with people and in order to build that readership. And I did, because I love the writing part, but I knew that in order to support that, in order to continue to write these novels, people had to know that they existed. So I had to do all those other things you would do for any other business. And I love learning. So that was a whole new field for me to step into. I had no social media accounts before this started, had no idea about business side of things, no idea about marketing. But what's helpful today is that you can just be yourself on these platforms, and you can share the journey, and authors couldn't have done that in 1975, 85, 95. So it's an opportunity for me to thank people for taking a risk on me as a new author and then telling a friend, because that's really what has made the novel hit the New York Times list last time. And I sincerely appreciate everybody's support.
You are of course, a former Navy SEAL sniper and a general badass yourself. And I want to get up to Park City, Utah, and hang out with you, and let's shoot some arrows through some of those gelatin heads. I saw your video the other day where you were shooting. That's gear I need right there. I need to find one of those rubber heads that the blood comes out of it when the arrow goes through it. Those commercials you're doing are fantastic.
You have to call them zombie heads, because if you call them human heads and if they put red blood in, then they get censored by YouTube. But if it's a zombie head, which looks very similar to a human head, although with a different color blood coming out, then you're allowed to post them for some reason. So come on up, man. We'll sling some arrows, destroy some zombie heads, and maybe use some tomahawks on them as well. That's kind of fun.
Dude, that's incredible. You are a master at promotion when it comes to doing stuff like that. That's a lot of fun. And I also was watching you sat down with the Black Rifle Coffee guys recently, and you guys were looking at some of the I love when they critique military movies, right? And how it gets kind of off base and things like that. You're coming at these works of fiction, and I'll add that, just like I told Brad, it's faction in a lot of ways, because it's coming from real life experience for you. This is good stuff. It's in your face. It's gritty. It's hardcore. Tells a story. It takes you on a journey. And when you're finished, you're ready for the next episode. You're ready for the next sequel to come out. So I want you to keep on doing this, Jack. This book right here, The Devil's Hand, is available. It's already out. It came out, April 13th, right?
That's right. April 13th, and it's available everywhere. People always ask me if it's available in audiobook, and the answer is yes. The first one was up for audiobook of the year up there with Stephen King and Ruth Ware. It was crazy to see it up there with those amazing authors. So it's out there in all those formats, ebook as well, and grab it anywhere books are sold. Though I like to push people towards those independent bookstores, because they had a really tough year. 2020, and in order to support them, a lot of them are the cornerstones of different communities across the country. So check with your local independent bookstore if you can.
Yeah, if you're new to Jack Carr's writings, get the Terminal List. That's the first one in the James Reese series. You will be absolutely addicted to it immediately, and you don't want to miss out on that. And of course, if you're keeping up, The Devil's Hand is the new one that's coming out, the 4th installment. Jack, always a pleasure. Let's get together very, very soon. People can find you at official Jack Carr. That's Carr with 2Rs.com.
That's right.
Officialjackcarr.com. And then follow him on Instagram, Jack Carr USA. Make sure that you are keeping up with Mr. Carr. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being on and letting us have you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get up here to Park City. We'll have some whiskey soon.
I like it, man. Rock and roll. Thanks, Jack. Hey, guys, what if I told you that you could improve your health, boost your energy, and support a healthy heart in less than 2 minutes per day? Field of Greens is unlike any other superfoods because it uses real USDA organic fruits and vegetables packed with antioxidants. Field of Greens can support heart health, metabolism, blood pressure, and digestion. Plus, it's pre and probiotic. It's great for everyone in your family, old, young, your athletes. You got to make Field of Greens part of your daily routine. It's super simple. Put a scoop in a glass of water, stir it up, drink it, and you are done. And unlike other nutritional drinks, which rely only on one vegetable, Field of Greens is packed with 18 clinically researched essential fruits and vegetables, plus green tea, ginger, turmeric, and beets. I want you to go to BrickHouseChad.com. Get 15% off your first order with the promo code CHAD, I spell it, Chad, at checkout. That's BrickHouseChad.com. It's the easiest, fastest way to start living a healthier life. Available in original wild berry and now lemon lime. BrickHouseChad.com. BrickHouseChad.com. Use promo code Chad and get the Devil's Hand. We'll be right back. All right. I can't wait to read this book. Actually, it is honestly reading these type books is what neutralizes my mind and helps me kind of rest before I go to bed. I love it. Good stuff.
You used to have a lot of time to read on the planes, but you're not flying as much anymore. Yeah. When are you catching time? Are you really able to catch time to read?
I'm reading. I read a lot.
I know.
I have to. I read every day.
Okay.
Yeah. It's my thing. It's my go-to.
That's good.
And with the world as crazy as it is right now, you got to get lost in something, right? And we got a book coming out, Am I Crazy? Don't we, Jennings? Yes,
we sure do.
Yeah, August 3rd. Go pre-order it wherever books are sold. When you go to buy the Terminal List or buy Devil's Hand or one of the series of Jack Carr's, buy Am I Crazy too? Mm-hmm. How's that? The Derek Chauvin trial. So he was convicted of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter, if I remember right. Interesting, that verdict. I don't condone in any way, shape, or form the actions of Derek Chauvin. But I have to say, I don't know that the guy, I don't know that he murdered George Floyd just from the evidence that's there. I mean, the guy obviously was on some pretty strong stuff.
Was it involuntary, or what was the?
No, it was second and third degree murder. I mean, it wasn't an involuntary deal. But well,
I'm sure not.
And what the judge had said is if there was evidence that something else could have killed him, like being on fentanyl or something like that, then you can't just say that he was murdered. It's tough. It's tough. But what's sad about the entire thing is them wanting to out the names of the jury, trying to dox the jury members. There was threats that were there. These folks really had no. If they had come back with a not guilty, they would have burned Minneapolis to the ground, right? And they still may.
Leaders were calling for it.
Yeah.
Well, then you have the president. You have Maxine Waters talking about it in the. On the news and out there that the public, and the jury could see at any time, because at that point they weren't sequestered.
Yeah.
And because they waited till yesterday to sequester the jury when they're going to do the verdict. And then it pisses me off because you still have three other officers that have to stand trial.
Yeah.
And it's tainted now. Yeah. How can you get a fair trial?
Yeah. That judge thanked them for their service. And when he did, he said, "Thank you for your heavy duty jury service." That crew will never be the same.
No, I mean it's and they still said it's not enough. A lot of them said it's not enough for me. Liberals on both social media and television insisted former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, being convicted on all counts, did not qualify as justice, with some suggesting he deserved an even harsher punishment. Said, what's What's that, Steve?
I think he was overcharged. I mean, there was one person that died but they have second degree murder and then third degree.
Yeah.
And second degree manslaughter. That's where my head was, because I went to but it was second degree manslaughter.
Well, and now we're still waiting for sentencing. There's another whole opportunity for this federal narrative that doesn't belong there.
Listen, if he's finna go to jail,
he's going to jail.
I know you're finna go to jail, and it's not going to be good.
No, it's not going to be good.
It's not.
Model and podcaster Scotty Beam tweeted, "No matter the verdict, unfortunately, it's not enough for me." Eric Holder, former Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, he says not enough. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went on Instagram Live after the verdict and told her millions of followers that the verdict was not justice because true justice would mean that George Floyd was still alive.
I think
the level of ignorance here is just...
Justice being served is that it went through the justice system and a conclusion was made, period.
Yeah. George Floyd going home alive would mean that the crime never occurred in the first place to require justice to be served. Justice is a reactionary thing, not a proactive thing.
Right.
What was their solution? If that's not enough, 3 guilty charges.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I can only speculate, but I mean, I'm assuming anything short of hanging the guy in a public square right there and dragging him out, it wasn't going to be enough.
I also have a problem with the civil part of it being done before the trial. The family was awarded $27 million before Chauvin went to trial.
Listen, people need to keep this race narrative going, right? Because it's a moneymaker.
And it's still going.
The riot stuff, they got to make sure. So they got to come out and say that it's not enough because they got to keep fanning the flames. It gets them attention. It gets them support. It gets them money. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's disgusting. And you've got our favorite idiot, Nancy Pelosi, who comes out and says, "Thanks to George Floyd. Thank you, George Floyd, for giving your life,
sacrificing your life."
He took heat for that from both sides, though. Like both sides piled on.
Good
stupid ass.
I mean, it was a parody.
Anyway, she said, "Thank you, George Floyd, for sacrificing your life for justice, for being there to call out to your mom. How heartbreaking was that? Call out for your mom. I can't breathe. But because of you and because of thousands, millions of people around the world who came out for justice, your name will always be synonymous with justice."
No, because you know what? There's something else happening in the news right now. There'll be another something tomorrow.
Every day.
It's
there was a big one yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, the girl was
not
trying.
The next Martin Luther King Jr. Like he didn't live the life required to be the next Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Not a martyr.
Yeah, he's not.
So
he
hundreds,
shouldn't be anyway.
Hundreds of demonstrators gathered at the Columbus Police Headquarters on Tuesday night, which was last night, to protest the fatal police shooting of 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant. Crowd pushed past police barriers to get near the building where they approached officers and chanted the name of Bryant, who was shot dead outside of a home earlier in the day. She was just a kid, the group also yelled. Cops with bicycles pushed protesters back, threatened to deploy pepper spray. And, of course, in that, she was attempting to stab 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at several news headlines, and, the media on the left, of course, is while holding a knife.
Yes.
That's their narrative. While she was holding a knife, she was rearing back, fixing to stab that girl. Yeah. And it's so far everything I've seen in the video I've seen, it's a girl justified.
In a pink jumpsuit trying to get away, holding a dog, and she rears at her with a knife.
Yeah, and a cop, of course, shot her in the back.
Is this the point that they want them retrained to use less lethal? So why didn't you try to tase her rather than shoot her?
Because she was using deadly force against someone else, and
I'm not asking. I'm just saying. I think that's what they're wanting this to.
If she'd have been hitting her with her fist, it'd be one thing, but she wasn't. She had a weapon.
Right.
And I don't think anybody, right or left, is disagreeing with the idea that in probably a lot of police precincts, better and more training would be a good thing. But I assume nobody's against that idea, that better and more training is good.
But here's the thing. Even when you take these people, I don't care, even these liberal activists, and they've done it, where they put them in the same scenarios where they have to react in a police escalated situation where there's a threat, every one of them, they have to make a decision in a split second, and they all fail. They all fail. It's sad. I mean, it's sad, but there's going to be outrage no matter what happens. And I got something else I want to say about that. It's probably going to get me in trouble. But first, did you know that the average American has 97 points that they can add to their credit score and have no idea how to get them? Scoremaster is the new credit science that super boosts your credit score. Forget raising your credit score a few points. That's weak, folks. The average Scoremaster user raises their credit 61 points in 20 days or less. That's 61 points added to your credit. So say your credit score was in the high 500s to mid 600s, and you bought that new car. If you'd gone to Scoremaster first and raised your credit score, just the average 61 points our listeners get, you could have saved $9,000 on your car loan. Now, if you'd gone to Scoremaster before applying for a home loan and raised your score just the average 61 points that our listeners get, you could have saved almost $100,000 over the life of your loan. If you own a business, you know how essential great credit is. From getting a loan to funding projects to financing equipment, go to Scoremaster first and see how super boosting your business credit score can save you a fortune. Scoremaster puts you in control of your finances, not the banks. Enroll in minutes and see how many plus points Scoremaster can add to your credit score. Visit Scoremaster.com/Chad. That's Scoremaster.com/Chad. And we'll be right back. So over the weekend, there was a 7-year-old girl that was shot and killed while waiting in line at a McDonald's drive-thru in Chicago. A child's father was shot too, but survived the attack. The suspected motives behind the attack remain unreleased by police officials, but the car was found covered in bullet holes. It was a drive-by. All right. 30 shell casings outside the vehicle after the shooting. But where's BLM? Where's BLM?
Well, that was an attempted execution of somebody right there in broad daylight by someone of the same race.
Yeah.
It's not newsworthy.
What if...
but those Black lives mattered.
Right.
They matter. So where are they?
Where are they? It doesn't fit the agenda, guys. I mean, that's the sad part about this whole thing. Black Lives Matter movement is the group's, one major criticism of the left-wing Black Lives Matter movement is the group's refusal to focus on all innocent black lives, instead seemingly picking out controversial and politically opportune cases that help advance, for example, their goal of nationally defunding police. Black-on-black crime is completely ignored by the movement as it doesn't fit their agenda. Earlier this month, a resident of Rochester, New York, called out BLM activists for ignoring crime in the city when it doesn't involve police. If the police were killing us at the rate we're killing ourselves, I suspect this town would be on fire. Said Rudy Rivera, CEO of Rochester's Father Lawrence Tracy Advocacy Center on North Clinton Avenue. Noted the protesting he saw this summer in response to the death of a black named Daniel Prude following a police interaction. The activists who sparked the protest and many nights of subsequent destructive violent rioting in the city are now nowhere to be found as murder continues to spike in Rochester. When we kill ourselves, I say to myself, where are the protesters lining the streets? Where are the people within our own community who know what's going on here? Where are they? And that's the most tragic part of this whole story because everybody knows what's happening here, yet it persists. Where are the voices? Yeah, it's a sad deal. I mean, but the hypocrisy is what stinks about the whole thing.
Well, we have a culture problem, and a culture problem, whether it be the black culture, the police culture, there's problems on both sides of that. Yeah. And how do you change culture?
Yeah, it's getting to the point where you almost just want to. And there's good people in the world, man. Yeah, there's good people. Alice and I, we spent the better part of 4 hours yesterday at the North Texas Community Food Bank there in Fort Worth. And those folks in there working that food bank, it's the largest in the nation of a privately funded food bank. Huge. Doing an incredible work over there. We spent some time they're gracious enough also to let us use their conference room for meetings. And so we brought in some experts, tax experts, to talk about property tax. So that was my exciting day, talking about property tax in Texas for 3 hours. It really was great.
I was going to say
it really was
valid.
It was very meaningful conversation and discussion. I learned a lot. But you realize when you go to a place like that and you see the work that people are doing, volunteer, I might add, there's good people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we focus on those things? Why don't we highlight that? But we don't do that anymore. We don't. If it bleeds, it leads,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what we get. The media, they love to pump this stuff up and push it out there. I mean, white people get shot by cops too. I mean, but it doesn't make the news.
Well, and black people get killed by black people.
Right.
And I was also going to say there's black people that don't get killed by cops.
That's right.
Right.
We have a media problem.
We have a
Majority of-
media problem.
I went to TMZ the other. I haven't gone there in a long time, but something drew me there. Some sort of entertainment tonight. But I would say that 99% of the top stories were all white people killing black people.
Yeah.
Like it is happening so much that has to be the top story. You should go there. Just go look and see how many stories
Yeah.
are just actually don't go there. Don't feed that. But it was so sad.
Well, you take let's apply some logic. Let's apply a little logic here. Let's see if we can do this. So we've said over and over again, there's 400 million guns in America, right? There's a certain type of people who own the majority of those guns, right? Tend to be conservative thinking, tend to be, you know how it is, right? Tend to be the people on the conservative side. If we had a gun problem in this country, everybody'd know it because we just kill everybody that disagreed with us,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's 400 million guns. I mean, there's not 400 million deaths by guns, unless you're listening to Joe Biden give a speech and he talks about 90 million a year. Well, let's say this. So if the black community makes up, 13%, 14% of the American population, if white people hated blacks, you'd know it. Because that would be a genocide, right? But
Yes.
that's not how we think. That's not how we live. We don't have a race problem in this country. We fought the bloodiest battle in history of the Civil War. 600,000 people died in the Civil War. That's more than any other war that we've been involved in, and probably combined. 600,000 people lost their lives. Brothers killing brothers. To end slavery. We fought for civil rights. We fought to end Jim Crow laws, right? We fought. We elected a black man president twice. We have a person of color who's vice president now. There's not a race problem in America.
Mm-hmm.
There is a culture problem in America. There is a heart problem in America.
A media problem.
There is a media problem in America. I said it 30 years ago. There's no way you can have 24/7 media coverage without running out of shit to say. And so you're going to have to start creating a narrative that you can keep these on the airwaves because there's not that much news to report.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep going and get with the. So now there's no difference between a TMZ and CBS News. It's all for shock value.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference in any of it.
Yeah, daily they're going through and looking for stories across the nation. What's going to grab the headlines? And once one of them grabs it, everybody's going to pile on and grab that because it's for those.
And
ratings,
we talked about it
sales.
Monday. Yeah, we talked about it the other day. I mean, what Maxine Waters said, absolutely reprehensible to say we've got to get more confrontational.
Somebody needs to get confrontational with her. And some of her colleagues need to get a little confrontational.
They already
with
let
her.
her off the hook for it.
They already let her off
It's
the hook.
ridiculous.
So they wanted a censure of Maxine Waters for incitement of violence in Minnesota. Nope, they're not going to do that. They nuked that resolution, got rid of it. So 2 Minnesota National Guardsmen were injured hours later in a drive-by shooting as the Twin Cities remains on the edge ahead of the verdict. This was, of course, written yesterday. Announced to be coming shortly. The comments excused by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in the White House drew the admonishment of Judge Peter Cahill, who presides over the Chauvin trial. I wish elected officials would stop talking about this case, he said, before calling Waters' comments abhorrent. Congressional Republicans condemned Waters' comments as incitement and jury intimidation as Chauvin's defense team was denied requests to sequester the jury throughout the trial. I mean, you're talking about a trial before. You're talking about this thing You're giving a verdict before the verdict's
Yes.
ever delivered by the jury.
I watched that
Biden did the
verdict.
same thing.
I watched it come down live, and it was almost comical to watch the media's look of just crushed disappointment that they weren't about to, report on 24 hours of madness in the city for rioting.
Yeah. They wanted it.
They were disappointed.
And I mean, how many of those reports were saying, no matter what, that, like here's an article right here. Black Lives Matter protesters in Minneapolis compared police shootings to a genocide Tuesday in a viral video on Twitter. Amy Horowitz went to Minneapolis to ask protesters about the tension in the city as they awaited the verdict of the Derek Chauvin trial. One protester said, burn the whole city down. What does it matter? I say burn the city down, so they can see that we're here. Continue the movement. Yes, absolutely, another one said. When she asked them if they would burn down Minneapolis, he said, that'd be the least of our problems. I'm all for burning it down. There shouldn't even be a trial. He should be convicted just as is.
See,
So
that
there you
didn't
go.
come from their fearless founder. She was too busy closing on her multi-million-dollar home.
Patrice.
The fourth multi-million-dollar, however,
right.
whatever it was.
Well, she's a Marxist, man. She's got to put her family somewhere. They got to be able to share real estate like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's equal.
I have some really good breaking news. I know we're tight on time.
Tell me.
Last night, Texas Gun Experience prevented guns from getting in the wrong hands when
Yeah.
somebody tried to break in, because we don't want them in the wrong hands.
That's right.
And they
couldn't
did
break
not
through
get
that-
in.
They couldn't break through that glass. That's some tough
We're
stuff.
prepared to keep America safe.
There you go.
More ways than one.
Who tries to break into a place like Texas Gun Experience?
I got pictures of them.
I saw him. What a moron. Y'all hang tight. We'll be right back. I appreciate Ron DeSantis there in Florida. He just signed a bill anti-rioting in Florida. He says, if you look at the breadth of this particular piece of legislation, it's the strongest anti-rioting, pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country. There's just nothing even close. The law grants civil immunity for people who drive through demonstrators blocking a road, meaning they can't be sued for damages if protesters get hurt or killed, though they could face criminal charges. Ahead of the bill's passing, Democrats asked if such a provision would have protected the white nationalists who ran over and killed counter-protester Heather Heyer in Charlottesville, but Republicans said the immunity would not apply if the driver claims self-defense. Interesting world we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me want to just vomit.
I guess we can expect something similar next week here in Texas.
Probably so, yeah.
Abbott's got
But
it at the
again,
drawing
you
board
got to
now.
remember Greg Abbott. He says it, he doesn't do it, right? He just echoes the sentiment. He says it, he doesn't do it.
Ditto doesn't get it done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I want you guys to go to watchchad.com and see where we're going to be. We're going to be all over the country over the next couple of months, and not the least of which, we're going to be all over the state of Texas doing a whole lot of things, various little pop-ups and rallies and all kind of things. It's going to be fun. Come see us in Oklahoma City Friday night. We're going to be there. That is the 23rd, right, Allison? The 23rd, we're going to be at the National Cowboy Hall of Fame and Western Heritage Museum. So come out there. The Ragamuffins will be there. Jesse Payton will be there. We're going to have a good time. You can get your tickets and info at watchchad.com. And that's where all the fun stuff is, Allison. Go get your yellow rose shirt. I identify as Texan.
We got a few left. They were
Yeah.
the limited edition.
This is one of my favorites right here. Most likely to secede. You're wearing the same thing, Steve. We're twinsies. Look at that.
Twinsies.
Secede us.
That's great.
Hashtag secede us.
Have a good Tuesday night, folks. Or good Wednesday night. We love y'all. God bless you. Talk to you next time. Bye.